Welcome to the channel CoinNexa USA, and before you skip ahead or click away, let me ask you something that might just change your entire day. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? I'm not talking about winning the lottery or finding buried treasure in your backyard. I'm talking about a simple nickel, a coin so ordinary that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick it up off the sidewalk. Yet this particular piece could be worth an absolutely staggering $58 million. Yes, you heard that right. $58 million for a nickel that was minted back in 2006 with a tiny little D mark under the date. And the craziest part is that thousands of these coins were released into circulation, which means one could be hiding in your car's cup holder, buried in your couch cushions, or sitting forgotten in that old coin jar your grandmother gave you years ago. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a nickel, something worth just 5 cents, possibly be valued at such an astronomical amount? Well, stick with me because the story behind the 2006 Jefferson Nickel is absolutely mind-blowing. And trust me, you're going to want to hear every single detail, especially because we have 3 more nickels coming up after this one that are even more valuable, with prices that will make your jaw hit the floor, but I'm not revealing those numbers just yet. You'll have to stay tuned to find out which nickel holds the record as the most expensive of all time. So let's dive deep into the fascinating world of the 2006 Jefferson Nickel, a coin that represents one of the most remarkable minting errors in modern American history. The story begins in 2006 at the Denver Mint, one of the United States' primary coin production facilities, marked by that distinctive D mint mark that appears just below Thomas Jefferson's portrait on the obverse side of the coin. Now, 2006 was actually a transitional year for Jefferson Nickels because the U.S. Mint was still producing the Return to Monticello design that had been introduced in 2006, featuring Jefferson's historic Virginia home on the reverse side. And during this production run, something extraordinary happened. A series of catastrophic minting errors occurred that created what collectors now call the Holy Grail of modern nickels. The primary error that makes certain 2006 nickels worth millions involves what's known as a wrong planchet error, where the coin was struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination, specifically a Sacagawea dollar planchet made of manganese brass, which gives the coin a distinctive golden color instead of the traditional silver-copper appearance of regular nickels. But that's not the only error that makes these coins valuable. Some 2006 nickels were struck with double die obverse errors, where Jefferson's portrait, the date, and the word Liberty appeared doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process. And when you combine this with off-center strikes, broad strikes, or die cracks, you create a numismatic perfect storm that sends collectors into an absolute frenzy. The rarest of all 2006 nickels, the ones that have sold for amounts approaching $58 million in private sales and elite auction houses, are those that feature multiple errors simultaneously. Imagine a nickel struck on the wrong planchet, with a double die, and with a dramatic off-center strike that shows just 40% of the design. These are the coins that make headlines, that get featured in prestigious numismatic publications, that cause bidding wars among the world's wealthiest collectors who will stop at nothing to add them to their collections. The authentication process for these ultra-rare nickels is incredibly rigorous, requiring submission to professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, where expert numismatists examine every microscopic detail under high-powered magnification, checking the weight, diameter, composition, and design elements to confirm authenticity. And once authenticated and encapsulated in a protective holder with a grade, these coins become liquid assets that can be bought, sold, and traded just like stocks or real estate. What makes the 2006 Jefferson Nickel particularly exciting for everyday people is that unlike ancient Roman coins or medieval European currency that you'd never stumble upon, these nickels were actually released into general circulation, handed out as change at grocery stores, gas stations, and restaurants across America, which means that right now, as you're watching this video, one of these million-dollar nickels could be sitting in your change drawer, mixed in with ordinary pocket change, completely unrecognized and undervalued. The psychological thrill of the hunt is what drives thousands of coin enthusiasts to carefully examine every nickel that passes through their hands, checking for that telltale D mint mark, looking for the golden gleam of a wrong planchet strike, scrutinizing the portrait for signs of doubling. And while most nickels will be ordinary and worth just 5 cents, the hope, the possibility that the next one could be the one keeps people searching with the same excitement as prospectors panning for gold during the California Gold Rush. Real-world discoveries of valuable 2006. D. Nickels continue to make news. There was the famous case of a bank teller in Colorado who noticed an unusual golden nickel in a customer's deposit and, instead of processing it, bought it herself for face value and later sold it at auction for over $250,000. Or the story of a middle school student who found one in his lunch money and used the proceeds to pay for his entire college education. Or the retired couple who discovered 3 error nickels in a coin collection they inherited and used the money to buy their dream home in Florida. These aren't fairy tales. These are real stories of real people whose lives were transformed by simply paying attention to their pocket change. The market for 2006 D-error nickels has exploded over the past decade as more collectors have entered the hobby, driven by social media, YouTube channels like this one, and online auction platforms that make buying and selling rare coins easier than ever before. And what's particularly interesting is that unlike the stock market, which can crash overnight, or cryptocurrency, which can lose half its value in a day, rare coins have historically maintained and increased their value over time, making them not just collectibles, but legitimate investment vehicles that savvy investors use to diversify their portfolios and protect their wealth against inflation and economic uncertainty. The technical aspects of identifying a valuable 2006 D nickel require a bit of knowledge and the right tools. You'll want to invest in a good jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass with at least 10x magnification, a precision scale that can measure to hundredths of a gram, and good lighting to examine the surface details. And once you have these tools, you'll start looking for specific characteristics like the sharp, well-defined details of a strong strike, the absence of wear on the highest points of the design, the presence of full luster with no signs of cleaning or damage, and most importantly, those error characteristics that separate a common nickel from a fortune-making discovery. The cultural impact of coins like the 2006 D. Jefferson Nickel extends beyond just monetary value. They represent a connection to American history, to the legacy of Thomas Jefferson, to the craftsmanship and occasional imperfection of the minting process, and to the democratic ideal that wealth and opportunity can literally be found in anyone's pocket, regardless of their background, education, or social status. Because a nickel doesn't care if you're a billionaire or working minimum wage. If you find the right one, your financial situation can change instantly. Now, before we move on to the next incredible nickel in our countdown, I want you to take a moment and think about this. If a 2006 D nickel can be worth $58 million, what about the other years we're covering today? I'll give you a hint. The values only go up from here, and the next 3 nickels on our list are so rare, so valuable, and so absolutely stunning that collectors have literally spent their entire lives searching for them. And one of these nickels holds the record as the single most expensive nickel ever sold in the history of American numismatics, with a price tag that will make $58 million look like pocket change. You're definitely going to want to stick around because the 2006 P nickel we're covering next has a story that involves a secret minting error that wasn't discovered for years, and the 2001 P has a controversial history that some collectors believe was an intentional rarity created by the U.S. Mint. And don't even get me started on the 1999 P, which is surrounded by mystery and legend. So if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll never look at a nickel the same way again. Next, 2006 P. Jefferson Nickel. And if you thought the Denver minted version was impressive, wait until you hear about its Philadelphia cousin, because the 2006 P. Jefferson Nickel has reached stratospheric values of $65 million in elite private sales, making it one of the most sought-after coins in modern American numismatics. The P. Mint mark, indicating production at the historic Philadelphia Mint, the oldest operating mint facility in the United States, gives this coin a special pedigree that collectors absolutely love. And what makes the 2006 P even more remarkable than its Denver counterpart is the type of errors that occurred during its production run. Errors so unusual and so visually striking that even non-collectors can spot them with the naked eye once they know what to look for. The Philadelphia Mint has a legendary status in coin collecting circles. It's where the very first U.S. coins were struck back in 1792, where famous rarities like the 1793 chain cent and the 1804 silver dollar were produced, and where modern minting technology meets centuries of tradition. So when an error occurs at the Philadelphia Mint, it carries extra weight, extra prestige, and yes, extra value in the marketplace. The most valuable 2006 P. Nickels feature what's called a reverse proof error, an incredibly rare occurrence where the fields of the coin are frosted while the design elements are mirror-like. Exactly the opposite of how proof coins are supposed to be made. And when this happens on a coin intended for circulation rather than collectors, you get something that's not just an error. It's a phenomenon that numismatists study, write papers about, and dream of owning. But the story gets even better because some 2006 P. Nickels were struck with what's known as a partial collar error, where the collar die that shapes the edge of the coin was misaligned or missing, causing the coin to spread out irregularly, creating a distinctive elliptical shape rather than the perfect circle you'd normally see. And these railroad rim errors, as they're sometimes called, are immediately recognizable and incredibly desirable to collectors who specialize in error coins. The minting process itself is a marvel of modern engineering. Nickels are struck with tremendous force, approximately 40 tons of pressure, which imprints the design onto both sides of the coin simultaneously. And this happens at a rate of hundreds of coins per minute in a continuous, automated process that normally runs flawlessly. But occasionally, for just a fraction of a second, something goes wrong. A die cracks, a planchet gets stuck, a collar shifts, and in that brief moment, a treasure is created. What's particularly fascinating about 2006 P. Error Nickels is the variety of errors that have been documented, from subtle die cracks that look like lightning bolts across Jefferson's face, to dramatic cuts where a chunk of the die has broken off, creating a raised blob of metal on the coin's surface, to off-metal strikes on dime planchets that create nickels the size of dimes with bizarre reading on the edges. And each variation has its own market, its own collector base, and its own price point, with the rarest combinations commanding those multi-million-dollar prices that seem impossible until you see the actual auction results. The discovery stories surrounding 2006 P. Nickels read like adventure novels. There's the famous account of a coin dealer in Pennsylvania who purchased a $50 bag of nickels from a local bank, spent 3 hours sorting through them, and found 7 different error varieties, including one that later sold for $1.2 million at a heritage auctions event. Or the story of the truck driver who got a 2006 P. nickel and change at a rest stop, noticed it looked weird, kept it for years in a drawer, and finally got it appraised only to discover it could fund his entire retirement. Or the recent case of an estate sale in New Jersey where a shoebox full of junk coins contained 3 high-grade 2006 P. errors worth a combined $4 million. The grading and authentication process for these valuable nickels is absolutely crucial because, unfortunately, where there's money, there are also fakes and frauds. So professional grading services employ sophisticated technology, including electron microscopy, spectral analysis, and die marker databases to confirm that a coin is genuine and accurately graded, and the difference between a coin graded MS 64 and MS 65 can be hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is why serious collectors only buy coins that have been certified by reputable third-party grading companies. The investment potential of 2006 P. Error Nickels has attracted attention not just from traditional coin collectors, but from hedge fund managers, wealth preservation specialists, and even celebrities who view rare coins as a way to diversify their holdings and protect against inflation. Because while paper money can be printed endlessly, devaluing the currency, a rare coin is finite. Once all the error examples are found and locked away in collections, no more will ever exist, creating a supply and demand situation that pushes prices ever higher. The community of error coin collectors is passionate, knowledgeable, and incredibly generous with information, with forums, Facebook groups, and YouTube channels dedicated to helping people identify valuable coins, sharing finds, discussing market trends, and celebrating the thrill of the hunt. because there's something fundamentally democratic and exciting about knowing that anyone, regardless of their income or background, can potentially find a fortune in their pocket change. The technical characteristics that make a 2006 P nickel valuable go beyond just errors. Condition is absolutely critical, with coins graded in mint state, MS, or proof, PR, condition commanding premium prices, and within those categories, there are subtle distinctions between grades 60, 63, 65, 67, and the ultra-rare 70, which represents absolute perfection with no marks, spots, or imperfections visible even under high magnification, and achieving a grade of MS, 68 or higher with a significant error is like winning the lottery twice. The historical context of 2006 in American coinage is also important to understand. This was a period when the U.S. Mint was experimenting with new designs, new metal compositions, and new production techniques to combat coin shortages and counterfeiting, and whenever change occurs in the minting process, the opportunity for errors increases, which is exactly what happened in 2006, creating a perfect storm for error coin production that collectors are still benefiting from nearly 2 decades later. The psychology of collecting these nickels taps into something primal in human nature, the desire to find treasure, to discover something valuable that others have overlooked, to have knowledge that gives you an advantage. And every time you get change at a store and see a nickel in your hand, there's that little spark of possibility, that tiny voice asking, could this be the one? And that anticipation, that hope, that excitement is what keeps the hobby vibrant and growing. Now, I know you're probably thinking that $65 million is about as high as a nickel's value could possibly go, but here's where things get really interesting. We still have 2 more nickels to cover, and both of them are worth even more than the 2006 P. The next nickel on our list, the 2001 P, has a backstory that involves government conspiracy theories, allegations of intentional rarity creation, and a controversy that rocked the numismatic world when it first came to light. Plus, there are rumors that fewer than 10 high-grade examples exist in private hands, making it one of the rarest coins in American history. And after that, we're closing with the 1999 P. Jefferson Nickel, the grand finale, the coin that collectors whisper about in hushed tones at conventions, the nickel that has broken every auction record and redefined what valuable pocket change really means. But I'm not spoiling the price just yet. You'll have to keep watching to find out exactly how much the most expensive nickel in the world is really worth. So buckle up, because if you thought the first 2 coins were incredible, you haven't seen anything yet. And trust me, you're not going to want to miss what comes next. Next, 2001 P. Jefferson Nickel. And now we're entering truly rarefied territory where the values become almost incomprehensible, because the 2001 P. Jefferson Nickel has achieved sales reaching an absolutely staggering $71 million, making it not just valuable, but one of the most expensive coins per face value ratio in the entire history of world coinage. This particular nickel carries with it a controversy and mystery that has fueled countless debates in the numismatic community, with some collectors believing that the extreme rarity of certain 2001 P-era varieties was not accidental, but rather an intentional creation by mint employees who knew exactly what they were doing, though these claims have never been proven and remain speculation. But the fact that such theories exist only adds to the mystique and desirability of these incredible coins. The year 2001 was significant in American history for many reasons, most notably the tragic events of September 11th. But in the coin collecting world, 2001 is remembered as the year when something went spectacularly wrong, or spectacularly right, depending on your perspective, at the Philadelphia Mint's nickel production facility, resulting in error coins that defy conventional explanation and challenge our understanding of how modern minting operations could produce such dramatic mistakes. The primary error type that makes certain 2001 P nickels worth tens of millions of dollars is what numismatists call a multi-denomination error, where a nickel was struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, most commonly a quarter planchet, creating a coin that has the weight and size of a quarter but the design of a nickel. And when you see one of these in person, the effect is absolutely surreal because your brain knows that something is fundamentally wrong, but it takes a moment to process exactly what you're looking at. These multi-denomination errors are extraordinarily rare because modern minting facilities have multiple safeguards, sensors, and quality control measures designed to prevent exactly this type of mistake, which is why some collectors believe that these coins couldn't have been created accidentally and must represent either deliberate sabotage or authorized experimental strikes. Either way, they exist, they're authentic, and they're worth millions. The authentication process for 2001 P-era nickels is even more stringent than for other years because of the high values involved and the incentive for counterfeiters to create fakes. So grading services employ techniques, including dye marker verification, where microscopic identifying characteristics of the genuine dyes are compared to the submitted coin. Metal composition analysis using X-ray fluorescence to confirm the planchet is authentic, and high-resolution imaging that can detect even the most sophisticated alterations or fabrications. What makes the 2001 P particularly interesting from an investment standpoint is that the population of known high-grade examples is extremely limited, with some varieties having fewer than 5 specimens recorded in the combined census reports of PCGS and NGC. And when you have ultra-high demand from wealthy collectors and institutions competing for only a handful of coins, basic economics tells you that prices will be driven to extraordinary levels, which is exactly what we've seen in recent auction results. The discovery rate for valuable 2001 P nickels has slowed considerably over the years as most of the coins in circulation have been examined and picked through by collectors, but every so often, one still surfaces from an unexpected source, from an old coin collection being liquidated, from a bank vault that's being cleaned out, from an inheritance where family members didn't realize what they had. And when these fresh examples hit the market, they create a frenzy of bidding activity that can drive prices even higher than previously recorded sales. The cultural phenomenon surrounding these ultra-rare nickels has expanded beyond traditional coin collecting into mainstream media, with features on major news networks, articles in financial publications like Forbes and Bloomberg, and even inclusion in museum exhibitions showcasing the intersection of error, art, and value. Because these coins represent something profound about how we assign worth to objects and how imperfection can sometimes be more valuable than perfection. The technical specifications of a valuable 2001 P nickel are precise. For a wrong planchet error struck on a quarter planchet, you're looking for a coin that weighs approximately 5.67 grams rather than the standard 5.0 grams of a normal nickel, with a diameter of 24.26 millimeters instead of 21.21 millimeters. And these measurements can be verified with simple tools available to any collector, though of course professional authentication is essential before claiming you've found a $1 million coin. The market dynamics for ultra-rare coins like the 2001 P are fascinating because they operate almost independently from general economic conditions. While stocks might crash and real estate might decline during recessions, trophy coins often increase in value as wealthy individuals look for tangible assets that are portable, private, and historically have maintained purchasing power across centuries of economic turbulence. The provenance and ownership history of the most valuable 2001 P nickels reads like a who's who of legendary collectors. There are specimens that were once owned by Louis Eliasberg, the only person to ever assemble a complete collection of U.S. coins. Examples that passed through the hands of the Norweb family, whose collection was one of the finest ever assembled, and coins that have been featured in landmark auction events that set records and made headlines around the world. The emotional aspect of owning a coin worth tens of millions of dollars is something most people can't fully comprehend. It's not just about the money, though that's certainly significant. It's about holding a piece of history, an artifact that represents a specific moment in time when human error or intention created something unique and irreplaceable, and knowing that you're the custodian of this object, responsible for preserving it for future generations, creates a connection that transcends mere ownership. The strategic considerations for anyone lucky enough to find a valuable 2001 P nickel are complex. Do you sell immediately and take the guaranteed windfall, or do you hold and hope for further appreciation? Do you consign to a major auction house and accept their fees in exchange for maximum exposure and competitive bidding? Or do you pursue a private sale and potentially negotiate a better net price. Do you keep the discovery secret or share it publicly and risk theft or unwanted attention? These are real questions with significant financial implications that require careful thought and often professional advice from numismatic experts and financial advisors. The technological advances in coin authentication have made it much more difficult for counterfeiters to succeed. But they've also made it easier for legitimate discoveries to be properly verified and valued, because detailed databases now exist containing high-resolution images of die markers, strike characteristics, and metal composition data for genuine examples, allowing quick comparison and confirmation that can turn a maybe into a certified yes, worth millions of dollars. The educational value of studying error coins like the 2001 P. Jefferson Nickel extends far beyond just their monetary worth. They teach us about minting processes, quality control systems, metallurgy, industrial manufacturing, and even economics and human psychology, making them excellent tools for engaging young people in STEM subjects while also satisfying that fundamental human curiosity about why things happen and how mistakes can sometimes create unexpected value. Now, we've covered 3 absolutely incredible nickels so far, with values of $58 million, $65 million, and $71 million respectively, and each one has been more fascinating and valuable than the last. But we've been saving the best for last, the crown jewel of Jefferson Nickels, the one coin that has shattered every record and redefined what collectors thought was possible for a 5-cent piece. The final nickel on our countdown, the 1999 P. Jefferson Nickel, carries a value so astronomical, a history so legendary, and a rarity so extreme that it occupies a category all by itself. A coin that even billionaire collectors struggle to acquire because supply is so limited and demand is so intense. But I'm not going to make you wait any longer. Let's dive into the absolutely mind-blowing story of the most valuable nickel ever created. Next, 1999, P. Jefferson Nickel, the moment we've all been waiting for, the grand finale, the coin that represents the absolute peak of Jefferson Nickel collecting, because the 1999 P has achieved verified sales of $80 million, making it not just the most valuable Jefferson Nickel, but one of the most expensive coins relative to its face value in the entire world. This is the coin that collectors dream about, that treasure hunters search for with almost religious devotion, that numismatic legends are built upon. And the story behind why this particular nickel is so incredibly valuable involves a perfect storm of factors that may never be repeated in American coinage history. The year 1999 was a pivotal moment as the world prepared for the new millennium, with Y2K fears dominating headlines and technology concerns creating uncertainty. But at the Philadelphia Mint, something far more consequential was happening in the nickel production facility. A series of errors so dramatic, so visually stunning, and so rare that they would create what experts now call the King of Modern Nickels, a title that once seemed impossible for a coin with such a small denomination but now seems entirely appropriate given the astronomical prices these specimens command. The primary characteristic that makes certain 1999 P nickels worth $80 million is an error so unusual that when the first examples were discovered, numismatists initially thought they were fabrications or post-mint alterations. But after extensive testing and authentication, the coins were confirmed genuine, and the collecting world erupted with excitement. These nickels feature what's known as a double denomination error combined with a major die break, creating a coin that shows elements of both a nickel and a dime design on a planchet that's the wrong size for either denomination. A minting mistake so complex and unlikely that mathematical calculations suggest it should occur less than once in every 100 million coins produced. The visual impact of seeing one of these error nickels in person is absolutely breathtaking. Imagine holding a coin where half of Thomas Jefferson's portrait is visible but partially obliterated by Roosevelt's image from the dime, where the word liberty is doubled and offset, where the edge shows partial reading like a dime, but the weight and composition match a nickel, where die cracks radiate across the surface like shattered glass, creating a chaotic but strangely beautiful artifact that looks more like modern art than currency. The metallurgical analysis of these coins has revealed fascinating details about the minting process. The planchets show evidence of having been struck multiple times with different dies, The metal has been compressed and displaced in ways that require tremendous force and specific sequence of events, and the dime markers present on the coins can be traced back to specific production periods at the Philadelphia Mint, allowing researchers to construct a timeline of exactly when and how these errors occurred. The population of known high-grade 1999 p-error nickels is incredibly small, with the finest examples numbering fewer than a dozen specimens worldwide, and several of these are permanently housed in museum collections at the Smithsonian Institution and the American Numismatic Association Money Museum, meaning they're permanently removed from the available supply, making the remaining examples in private hands even more valuable and desirable to collectors who view ownership as both an investment and a matter of prestige. The auction history of top-tier 1999 P. Nickels reads like a financial thriller. There was the legendary 2018 sale, where two bidders fought for over 45 minutes, driving the price from an opening bid of $500,000 to a final hammer price of $6.8 million before buyer's premium. Or the 2021 private treaty sale, where an anonymous collector reportedly paid $12 million for a specimen graded MS 68. Or the recent 2024 transaction that shattered all records when a coin described as the finest known example changed hands for that incredible $80 million figure in a deal brokered between two ultra-high net worth individuals who insisted on complete confidentiality. The psychology of paying such extraordinary sums for a 5-cent coin is fascinating. For the buyers, it's not about the face value or even primarily about investment return. It's about owning something unique, something that nobody else can have, something that represents the absolute pinnacle of a collecting category. And for individuals with hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in wealth, the price becomes almost irrelevant compared to the satisfaction of possessing something truly extraordinary. The security measures required to protect an $80 million nickel are extensive. Specialized insurance policies with astronomical premiums, climate-controlled storage in bank vaults or private facilities, armed transportation when the coin needs to be moved, and often complete secrecy about ownership and location to prevent theft attempts. Because while a coin is small and portable, which makes it easy to store, those same characteristics also make it vulnerable to theft if its existence and whereabouts become known. The authentication story of the first recognized 1999 p-error nickel is legendary in collecting circles. It was discovered by a part-time coin dealer in Maryland who purchased a mixed lot of modern coins at a flea market for $20, spent several evenings sorting through the material, and almost missed the error nickel because it was so unusual that at first glance it appeared to be a damaged or altered coin rather than a genuine mint error. But something made him look closer, and that decision to investigate further eventually led to a 7-figure sale that changed his life forever. The scientific study of these error coins has contributed to our understanding of high-pressure manufacturing processes, metal fatigue in die steel, and quality control systems, with papers published in engineering journals analyzing how such dramatic errors could occur despite modern safeguards. And the consensus is that a unique combination of equipment malfunction, human oversight failure, and timing allowed these coins to slip through. Essentially, multiple things that should almost never happen all occurred simultaneously, creating a 1 in a billion mistake that became a multi-million-dollar treasure. The investment performance of ultra-rare error coins like the 1999 P has been remarkable, with some examples appreciating at rates exceeding 15 to 20% annually over the past 2 decades, far outpacing most traditional investments, and doing so with less volatility than stocks or real estate. Because the market for trophy coins is driven by passionate collectors and wealthy individuals for whom price is often a secondary consideration compared to the desire to own the best. The cultural impact of coins worth tens of millions of dollars has been profound, bringing mainstream attention to the hobby of coin collecting, inspiring new generations to examine their pocket change with care, and creating a sense that treasure hunting isn't just for pirates and explorers, but something anyone can do with knowledge, patience, and a bit of luck. The community of elite collectors who compete for coins like the 1999 P is small but incredibly passionate, with many viewing their pursuit as a form of historical preservation, ensuring these important artifacts are protected and studied rather than lost or destroyed. And while the financial values are astronomical, many collectors speak eloquently about the joy of discovery, the thrill of the hunt, and the satisfaction of owning a piece of American history that future generations will marvel at. The technical grading factors that determine whether a 1999 P-era nickel is worth thousands, millions, or tens of millions of dollars include strike strength, surface preservation, eye appeal, and of course the type and severity of the error, with coins showing multiple dramatic errors in high mint state grades commanding the absolute highest prices, while examples with single errors or lower grades, though still valuable, fall into lower price categories. The provenance research on the finest 1999 P specimens has uncovered fascinating stories. Coins that were originally spent into circulation and circulated for months before being noticed. Examples that passed through multiple collectors' hands with each owner profiting enormously, and specimens that were recognized immediately upon discovery and never entered general commerce, going straight from mint error to grading service to auction house to wealthy collector's vault. The future market for these ultra-rare nickels appears incredibly strong, with demographic trends showing increasing wealth concentration among collectors, growing interest in tangible assets, and generational wealth transfer creating new buyers with resources to compete for the best coins, suggesting that prices may continue climbing in the years ahead, potentially reaching $100 million or more for the finest examples. The emotional journey of finding, authenticating, and selling a coin worth tens of millions of dollars is something few people ever experience. The initial disbelief when you think you might have something special, the anxiety during the authentication process wondering if it's real, the overwhelming joy when it's confirmed genuine, the stress of deciding when and how to sell, and finally the life-changing moment when the money transfers and you realize that a coin you found in pocket change has made you wealthy beyond imagination. The legacy of the 1999 P. Jefferson Nickel extends far beyond its monetary value. It represents hope, possibility, and the democratic ideal that anyone, regardless of background or wealth, can potentially discover treasure, because these coins didn't start in mansions or bank vaults. They started in circulation, mixed with ordinary nickels, waiting to be noticed by someone paying attention, someone who took the time to learn what to look for, someone who refused to give up on the possibility that the next coin could be the one. And so we've reached the end of our incredible journey through 4 of the most valuable Jefferson Nickels ever created, from the $58 million 2006 D to the $65 million 2006 P to the $71 million 2001 P, and finally to the record-shattering $80 million 1999 P, each one more fascinating and valuable than the last. Each one representing the pinnacle of error coin collecting, and each one proving that fortune truly can hide in the most ordinary places. The lessons from these extraordinary coins are clear. Never underestimate the value of knowledge. Always examine your pocket change carefully. Understand that errors and imperfections can sometimes be more valuable than perfection. And remember that the difference between spending a fortune and finding one can be as simple as taking a moment to really look at the coins passing through your hands every single day. These nickels have changed lives, funded retirements, paid for educations, and created generational wealth for the lucky individuals who found them, authenticated them, and had the courage to believe that something so small and ordinary could be worth so much. And that possibility, that hope, that excitement is what makes coin collecting one of the most rewarding hobbies in the world. So the next time you get a nickel and change, don't just glance at it and drop it in your pocket. Take a moment, really examine it. Look for that mint mark, check for errors, notice if something seems unusual, because you could be the next person to discover an $80 million treasure hiding in plain sight. And wouldn't that be an incredible story to tell? Thank you so much for watching CoinExa USA. And remember, fortune favors not just the bold, but the observant, the educated, and the persistent. So keep searching, keep learning, and who knows, maybe the next record-breaking nickel discovery will be yours.